high-scoring battle in Kolkata, and it means that Lucknow will depart from the tournament, but Bangalore fans in delirium. They waited a long time for this. It's not all over, but it's the first of 3 steps for them lifting the trophy that they've been waiting for a long, long time. 207 for 4 always looked like a massive total. You have to give credit to Lucknow for getting to within 14 runs of that, led by their captain Rahul, 79 of 58, Deepak Hooda, 45 of 26. But everything else was just a cameo and flattering to deceive. Josh Hazlewood, pick of the bowlers, 3 for 43, and he picked up wickets at the right time, just when it looked like Bangalore had a bit of a sniff. They had some stroke makers in Stoinis and Evan Lewis, but it was not to be. Bangalore are not yet in the final. After all that, after putting a mountain of runs on, it just means that they go to the next step to play qualifier number 2 in Ahmedabad against the Rajasthan Royals. Let's review what happened in Kolkata. It started with a bit of rain, delayed start, but once Bangalore lost the toss and were put in to bat, it all went their way in the first innings in particular. I'm joined by Shaun Pollock and Ajay Jadeja. Shaun, I'll start with you. It was not quite a foregone conclusion, but you knew that 200 plus was always going to be a tough chase, no matter what the conditions.
Yeah, it was going to be a tough chase. They had to match what was done in those last 5 overs by RCB, and who could be the one to answer the call? I mean, with 3 overs to go, it was just over 40 that was required, and the first delivery is a wide, second one goes for 5 wides. It was game on again. But just the destructive power of Dinesh Karthik and Patidar at the back end there meant that RCB's finish was a lot stronger. Have a look at that 16.8 compared to 10 and over. Therein lies the difference. Losing those 3 wickets, losing the continuity of a batter at the crease all the time. That was where all the drop catches took place as well for LSG, and that's where they basically lost the game. I mean, if you look at the batting performance of Rahul, he couldn't have done really much more. Maybe he strikes it a little bit quicker than he did. Hooda was superb. He matched Dinesh Karthik's performance, 45 of 26. I think Dinesh was 37 of 23. So he matched, but unfortunately it's the Stoinis, Lewis, Pandya performance there that meant at the back end when they really needed to be striking, unfortunately it wasn't to be, down to some quality bowling from Harshal Patel.
Yeah, they followed it up from that batting performance. It's one of those when a team gets 200 plus, another one gets 190 plus, you've got to say that one team just played a little bit better, a lot bit better, and that's what RCB did. And I think the big plus they'll take out going into their next game, Ajay, will be the fact that we mentioned it at the halfway stage. It was an unheralded hero who got them the runs there. Rajat Patidar, not talked about, injury replacement at the start of the season, and he's the one who gets them into the penultimate stage of this year's tournament.
Oh, I mean, the knock from Rajat Patidar probably got you to that total. I mean, there's no doubt about it. One of the finest that you've seen from young men. Something to do with knockout stages. I mean, I was trying to remember games where, there was a Bisla 100.
Manvinder Bisla, yeah.
Bisla, and then there was Saha. I mean, Saha is not a young man, but people you don't expect. Something about these knockouts that puts pressure on the senior players, and the younger guys come out there and express themselves. They play freely. And today what we saw was something special. I mean, he's a special player. We've been seeing glimpses of it. I think the first game was 48 when he got, and then a few glimpses, but today we got a full range.
Yeah, well, the full range means we've often had a lot of competition for this individual trophy, if you like it, from right here on Cricbuzz Live. This time around, there was no competition. For that magnificent 100, there can only be one name as our Omnigel relief and recovery performer of the match. Omnigel, India's #1 pain recovery gel. It not only gives quick relief, but also recovery from pain. Most importantly, no dard for fans. And for 14 seasons, the fans of the Royal Challengers Bangalore have had plenty of dard. This season, step 1 is done. Thanks to Rajat Patidar, step 2 and 3 are still to go. No matter what happens ahead, Shaun Pollock, either for this franchise or for this young man, it's probably the pinnacle of his career.
He's earned every cent that they've paid him to produce 100 in a knockout game, and some of the other performances we've seen from him this season. Every cent that they've spent on him has been full worth it. I was just trying to work out there was 12 fours, so that's 48, and I think there were 7 sixes, that's 42. So 90 of his 112 came in boundaries, which is, it's quite prolific in many ways. Just the 22 other runs. So it was a really good destructive hitting performance. Right from the start, the first power play, right through to the back end, he just kept picking out the boundaries and flying the ball over it. So, yeah, as I say, I think this will go long down in his memory. I hope he has a bright future and gets to play some international cricket and does some similar things. But he's going to go a long way to beat that kind of performance in front of a full house at Eden Gardens. It'll always be a special moment for him.
Yeah, you just added that little bit about the fact that it was on a big stage, literally the Eden Gardens packed. Ajay, the state of the game, it was an eliminator, and we'll add one more fact to it, which says a lot about his temperament. Virat Kohli doesn't quite come off, bats with him for a while. Captain Faf du Plessis out first ball that brings him to the crease, and Glenn Maxwell doesn't come off. Suddenly he finds himself, hang on, there's 70,000 people looking at me, many millions more watching. It's on me. The onus is on me.
Yeah, I mean, that shows the character of the man. I mean, this is what you actually prepare for or you dream for. You want to go out there in a stage. Any sportsman who's, ever played any sport, when you're growing up, when you're dreaming of the biggest stage in the world. And here he must have grown up watching these names that you've just taken. So, when they're failing, he's out there and he scores that. And I just hope this is not the pinnacle. And I believe that this is probably just the beginning of Rajat Patidar's career, because whatever little that I've seen through this season, it shows that this is probably just the beginning.
Well, again, what is for sure is that there is no doubt that he's our Omnigel relief and recovery performer of the match. He ensured that there was no dud for Bangalore fans as the relief and recovery performer of the match. But one thing's for sure, KL Rahul, when he tried to analyze the game, Shaun, he did put his finger on the fact that Patidar was the key, but the fact that they dropped him at 73 and 92, now drops are key anyway. But had they got him at either of those scores and they were maybe chasing 190, it just showed it could have been a very different game.
Yeah, there's also an opportunity. I think it was Moshin Khan could have maybe made it a bit more grounded and taken the catch. It is, and you say catches win matches, and people always harp on about it, and you see bowlers getting immensely frustrated. And it's a tough job out there in this T20 format. You really can get put to the sword. So when an opportunity presents itself, I mean, no one's looking to drop catches, but that's why there's hours and hours and hours spent on catching practice, because they know how vital a wicket like that. I mean, you take that catch, invariably someone else comes and bats with Kartik. You don't get anywhere near 200, and you can win the game as LSG. So it just shows the importance of it. And as you say, everyone's trying out there. They're not trying to drop. But, you almost have to get to a stage where if it's a 99% call, you're going to take it every time.
But of course, once you've got the runs on the board, it doesn't mean they can't be chased down. It's a ground that totals have been chased down. And even though Lucknow haven't been the most efficient at chasing it, KL Rahul, the fact that he was maybe slightly higher than his typically chasing strike rate, Ajay, meant that the Bangalore bowlers had to come to the party. And even though there were moments when, say, even a Hasranga got hit or a Harshal Patel got hit, they had the temperament to come back and keep their cool at the end.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, Harshal Patel's been outstanding. I mean, not just this game. I think over the last couple of seasons, I mean, he's just different. I mean, I know, when he started and he only bowls at the end, but with this side, Bangalore side, they play differently. I was surprised with LSG, how they approached that innings. Because watching Bangalore, whether it's bowling or batting, DK will not come in at over number 7, 8, 9. Same with Harshal Patel. In fact, Harshal Patel today came in and bowled 2 overs at the start as well, which probably slowed down the team there. And that's where the calculation went. But he's been outstanding. Nobody's been able to figure out how to, get after him, and especially if you go after him, you're getting nothing. I mean, whatever few runs that you got at the end were probably more 5 wides at that stage, could have, given you a little hope. But with Harshal Patel bowling at the end, we haven't seen it for the last 2 seasons. I mean, I haven't seen any team chase down. So for LSG to miss out on that when they were planning that chase, or I'm presuming that they were planning and they were working towards a total that this is how we want to get there, this is our resources, with Evan Lewis and Stoinis still in the hut and leaving so much at the end. That, for me, that was more of a surprise. Not that Harshal Patel, what he did, because he's just been fantastic, and he's made it to the Indian side as well, and I'm sure that he'll do exceptionally well for India as well at that stage. I hope they don't get him to bowl at the top.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you see a formula from certain players, Shaun. Harshal Patel, you're almost expecting that little trajectory of the dipping Yorker coming in, but on occasions he adapts, and today was one of those days. Yes, you forget the 5 wides, but he'd focused on those tramlines.
Yeah, he did. And sometimes, I mean, the way it's worked out, if you go for the wides and you manage to get a ball land in that kind of area, it makes the batter think about things. Even though it goes for wide, it's only cost you a single. But the thought process that you put the batter into for the next few deliveries can often help you get away with a few dot deliveries. And we saw that example of it today. I think the key to him, I mean, AJ was talking about the batters and the bowlers earlier, about how they need to back their strengths and but what they're capable of doing. He's mentally got into a state of mind where he believes he can be very effective at the back end of the innings, and he's not running. He's not running from the responsibility of doing it. You sometimes see some of the other bowlers almost like they're unwilling, or they're quite keen to finish their overs earlier. He knows, I'm going to bowl the last 2. I'm going to back my skills. I'm going to back my variations, and I'm going to do the job. And if I don't get it right, and every once in a while, so be it. But invariably, I'm going to come out on top. And I think that's the mental space he's in, and I think that's vitally important.
Yeah, like with Patidar, we talk about the temperament, and just every time you see him, and it's almost him walking up to the skipper and taking the ball, as opposed to someone looking at Harshal. Where are you? Oh, fine leg. You're up next. It just seems he's that kind of a person.
Yeah. And this team's allowed him to do that, because don't forget, he's been around for a long time, and I think with him and with DK, that you've got to give credit to this side. I mean, I may not appreciate the style of play, but at least they've given that confidence, so they've made sure that you guys will play this role, gives you that confidence, and that's what does. He walks into the captain and says, because he's not waiting for the captain to call him, he's already planned, he's working on how to work on teams. So they're both very clear. They've both done their job exceptionally well. And that's why maybe RCB is where they are today.
Yeah, certainly are. And it's where they are today, just to confirm once again, if you just happen to have popped in now, is into the qualifier, the next qualifier. You could actually call that an eliminator for the sake of argument, but they just refer to one of them as the eliminator. But qualifier number 2, folks, is also an eliminator. There was a time when they used to call it eliminator number 2, because it is the team that wins goes to meet Gujarat in the final. The team that loses, well, they have to exit from the tournament. Bangalore will be carrying a lot of the forbidden word momentum. Rajasthan, remember, one of the teams will be coming off a loss. So that's a very different mental space that they'll be in. But just to finish off on Lucknow, it's still a season, if they look back on, Shaun, they're one of the 2 new franchises. Franchise number 1 has gone straight to the final. They will still have to say that we've done a lot right this season, even though we didn't go all the way.
Yeah, there's been a lot of positives for them, and you get into that dressing room as a coaching staff, you can talk about the positives, how it's your first campaign and how you gelled well together, and you've done this and done that. But in all honesty, there's got to be disappointment there. If you think how well they had started, I mean, we thought that after maybe 10 games in the pool game that they'd basically qualified, everything was looking rosy. They've stumbled. They've stumbled at the back end. They were hoping just to get things right in this knockout phase. It hasn't been the case. So haven't finished as strong as they possibly could have. But if you have to look at the whole season as a picture, you would definitely regard it as a success for them. But I think in that camp, there will be a bit of a bittersweet taste in the mouth, because they felt like the way they started, they could have done a little bit better.
Yeah, they probably would have wanted, if anything, to finish in the top two, and they had a foot in the
Correct,
top
yeah.
two until the very end, and that would have made a huge difference. They would have been, had they lost to Gujarat, they would have been sitting in Ahmedabad waiting for the winner of today's game, which in that situation should have been Rajasthan versus Bangalore. But to sum up on Bangalore, we will of course talk more about them because they're still alive in the tournament, Ajay. But a comment on their skipper, Francois Duplessis. At the start of the season, they didn't have a captain. Many franchises were looking for one, and Virat Kohli, icon player, had said, I'm stepping back. So it needed someone who could gel with Virat and control the team and also go ahead and break that jinx. And he looks like the guy who could be the one.
Yeah, I hope your prediction comes true of them winning this IPL this year. But they've certainly done better than last few years. They've looked a better unit, and with Faf du Plessis, what you just said, I think what made the biggest difference, and because Virat had decided not to lead, he's a player of stature. I mean, he's led South Africa many years. He's a senior pro. He'd been around the IPL for so long, and he's just brought that calmness because there's enough energy with Virat and the rest of the guys in that RCB side that you see. You needed somebody to just hold them together, see that calmness. And he's gone about doing his business, whether he's got a 0 like today or whether he's got a 90 odd last time that he played against them. He just carries on doing his business as a leader. And even while off the ground in interviews and things like that, Faf just brought a different outlook to this team. It was always about whether it was Chris Gale or AB de Villiers or Virat Kohli, of course, is still there. It was always that number one or somebody who's special. Faf is a special player, but he's not one of those special players who's popular player. So what Faf did is made this team, instead of just being popular, he's made them functional, or I think that's what he's added the most. I'm trying to think of a word. Give me a good word, Gautam. Come on, help me out with the vocabulary.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a tough one because he's one of the nice guys, and that's not the kind of word you're looking for. But really, he's almost the antithesis in a sense of what Virat Kohli used to be, because an in-your-face kind of leader, which is his personality, and he's got his full right to have that. But they probably needed someone who had a different sort of personality, Shaun, and that's what he's always had for South Africa. He's had it. He's captain of the franchise in the Caribbean Premier League recently. And I think that was what Bangalore was really looking for.
Yeah, I mean, when Virat decides to step down, you need someone who's got a bit of experience doing. He's got that at the international level, and as you mentioned, at some franchises as well. And he is quite a calm character. I think also having been in that CSK side for as many years as he has, almost their recipe has been to stay as calm as possible under the leadership of Dhoni and Stephen Fleming. So that would have rubbed off on him as well. And he's been in successful campaigns. He's been over the line. He knows how to get it done, and no one really else in the RCB management or in the big players has ever been able to do that. So I think he's going to be in a good mix for them. He's got them operating like a little bit of a machine with a good oiling, and I think they're trending in the right direction. You still do get the feeling there's going to be a game where those big four come to the party and really put a team under immense pressure. It hasn't really come, but other guys are playing the part. I think Hasaranga has been a good acquisition. I was a bit surprised they let Chahal go. But Hasaranga has sort of matched him in the kind of performances. And I think both these teams who go to Ahmedabad for the qualifier or the Eliminator 2, whatever you want to call it, have got a slight advantage. I don't think we've ever seen in the years gone by that the qualifier 2s happen at the same ground that the final will happen at. So in many ways, they get an opportunity to feel the surface, get an understanding for the stadium, what will or won't work on the pitch. And then they can take it from there. If they do win, they go and take on Gujarat, whereas Gujarat, although it's their home ground, they ain't played any games there. So they're a bit of an unknown source on how they'll perform under those conditions. But I don't know, guys, can you remember any time where there's been the second last game and the final have happened at the same venue?
Maybe Chennai. I think, there was a period where you were playing in Chennai, last game and then the final. Was it? I'm not sure. I'm never good with numbers.
Yeah, It could have been because, it tends to be the 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1. The various permutations and combinations that they go. We'll see if our team at the back can pull that out before we finish on the show. But certainly, when we look ahead to the next game, Kolkata is done and dusted. Big crowds came in and they saw Bangalore conquer. They saw Gujarat show their invincibility and get to that grand finale. But in between, there's a little bit of a qualifier to still be done. And that's the match that lies ahead. Qualifier number 2 from Ahmedabad, Rajasthan taking on red-hot Bangalore. It's a shocking pink against red-hot Bangalore. It should be quite a cracking contest. The only difference, as we've said before, is the mental space in which they come in. The forbidden M word, Shaun Pollock, versus Rajasthan sort of licking their wounds, knowing that they've had a second bite of the cherry, and now that little one cherry is in their hand. Is that going to make a difference, or can they be just as fired up?
Yeah, I think Rajasthan have played some good cricket in their last 3 outings. I mean, obviously they lost the last game, but it wasn't a shocking performance in any way. It was a decent performance. If they can just tinker with a few things and improve in 3 or 4 little small areas, there's no reason why they can't go on. I don't see any real changes happening in their team. Maybe McCoy, the way he went, there might be a consideration for Anisha, but I don't even see that as a possibility. I think they'll stick with the same bunch. They've got the momentum now going in the batting department. The bowlers will enjoy the bigger ground in Ahmedabad, especially those spinners. If you want to take them on, it's a bit of a bigger hit. And it's not as quick in outfield. So I think their bowling lineup of the 5 guys taking the responsibility will probably work on that ground.
Yeah, I know we referred to Bangalore as a team who have made the least amount of changes. Rajasthan too would be right up there in terms of teams not having made too many changes. They've stayed consistent. They had Kuldeep Sen for a brief while as their 5th bowler. But now that they found the combination of getting in Ubaid McCoy, I reckon that they're telling this 11, we might have come out second best, but we still feel you're the best 11. Get out there and show the Bangalore boys what we're made of. Ajay?
Yeah, but I'm with Shaun. I don't think there are many changes that you look at that side. Gone are those days. I mean, a couple of years ago, you would look at Rajasthan squad and it would change every game. It hasn't happened this year. They've found consistency. They found players of quality, and that's been the big difference, and especially that spin twin there. I think that's been their real strength. Butler's done well. Samson's shown glimpses at times, and that's what we've got used to. Jaiswal's been fabulous. I think Jaiswal's given them some excellent starts. So where do you change? It's only McCoy, that one change that they've had, and tactically, if there is a case, because we haven't seen anything in Gujarat as yet. I mean, we haven't seen a game in Ahmedabad. Don't know what kind of surface that we turn up. So no matter what kind of surface, I don't think the 10 will change. If there is a change, that probably would be McCoy, depending on the situation or depending on kind of surface that they're playing on.
One person I would say where I'm surprised I haven't seen anything of is Navdeep Sahni. I think he had some decent bowling performances in the RPL before. So I'm not sure where he's at, but
he did sneak in for a couple of games in between, but he didn't ever look as if he was the first choice. Yeah, it was just a replacement, and he came back. But I guess the surface will play a bit of a part. They've moved from a brand new Kolkata with no tired pitches to Ahmedabad, which is a dry state, Ajay, and I don't refer to anything to do with consumption of beverages. I just mean you're not expecting any rain there.
Don't worry, we're getting Royal Challengers in. Soon it won't be a dry state.
Well put. Once the Bangalore boys land in Ahmedabad, that's going to change everything. But let's talk about Bangalore then. They are red hot. They've just beaten Lucknow, the team who have been in the top 2 so far. And they just look as if they've got this juggernaut going. And the biggest thing, as Shaun had mentioned earlier, is at some point, the big boys will fire. At some point, the big boys will all fire together. And if that happens, watch our opposition. Yeah,
I just hope, they fire, because they're great to watch, all of them. And when they fire, I hope they fire in, the mood that they are in. Because, we saw today team losing where the top players got runs except for Quinton de Kock, who got out in 2 balls, who didn't waste any balls. The top guns either were unused, or when they fired, they didn't fire with the firepower that they have, which won't be the case with Royal Challengers. I think Royal Challengers, if Maxwell fires, Kohli fires, Far fires, then the opposition's got a lot to worry about. And on those big grounds, these big players can make a big difference.
Yeah, Shaun, it's interesting. Ajay should mention Top Gun. I think the day of the Bangalore Rajasthan game, which is a Friday, is also the day the second Top Gun movie is releasing. So it'll be very appropriate.
Well, let's see who comes out as the Top Gun on Friday night. But just a last thought from me, just Rahul, just to really say that you almost feel like he's been hard done by, hasn't he? I mean, how many seasons now has he kept producing? He strikes, he gets his 500, 600 runs at 140. Unfortunately, his team that he's been in hasn't really been able to get as far in the tournament as he's deserved. So I know he's got the added bonus of being able to captain India and all those nice things that go with it. But just when he was walking off tonight, I just had that thought, like, sometimes as a player, you do get that feeling like, geez, I can't do much more. We need some of the other guys in the team. And that's where RCB are at. They've had a lot of different guys stand up, but it is at a stage where you say, hey, come on, the big four. Get involved, have a fantastic game, and let's see how you go.
And what a stage to do it on.
Just to take that conversation, when he gets out today, 18.4 overs, it's almost the game. If you batted and if you're number one player, you've been there almost 19 overs, the game should be through. You're going to get out at 0 someday, right? If this is your best and the team still lost by whatever number of runs, and what happened after that, he can't be responsible. But when he left, by then the game was gone. Do you think if Rahul stayed?
I'm not saying. I mean, he can probably go at a better strike rate and maybe hit a few more boundaries. I'm just saying his overall performance, season after season, in a side, and he's often had great partnership. Mayank Agarwal's been fantastic. You've had Quinton de Kock, all guys firing with him. You do just feel for him a little bit. I mean, you look at other guys in the tournament who've now moved on to the stage of the tournament, who haven't performed anywhere near what he's done. So, yeah, I know. I had a bit of a sympathy moment for him as he was walking off.
Apologies.
It was a moment that you'd feel a tug at your heart there, because you just saw his facial expression and he was like, 600 runs again, and I'm out of the tournament. No matter what color jersey I wear. It's red, it's turquoise, it's the same result for me. So, yeah, you've got to feel for him. But, yep, captaining India is going to be his next job against South Africa. That's coming up in a few days' time. We, of course, will be there.
Oh, that's a big job.
That's well pointed out.
Are you putting your spikes on?
Me? I don't know. I wasn't very good at bowling at the wide line. I used to try and target the stumps. So I don't know how it'd go in the modern era where you've got to bowl all these wide Yorkers.
All right, Pollock doesn't have the boots on, but they've got a good squad coming in there, and it should be a cracking series. And as I said, we'll be there on Cricbuzz Live. For now, this one's been the latest finish to any game in the tournament this season so far. So let's quickly go and find out who our winner was for our joy factor question. First of all, the question and the answer. Let's give that to you. This was what the question we asked you sometime yesterday in the distant past. Which important rule change came after a match when one Edward Stevens, good old Eddie, managed to beat an opposition batter 3 times in a row without him getting out? And I'm going to let Shaun Pollock take this one over, because you snapped it up. You don't like Joy's questions, but this one, bang on.
The middle stump. There was once upon a time where there was no middle stump, and the ball kept nipping back and going through between the off stump and the leg stump. And they thought, well, come on, we can't have this. So they had to do that.
There you go. All 3 times the ball went through the middle without dislodging the 2 stumps, and the middle stump was introduced. So strange ways cricket has evolved with their innovations, taking us a long way back. And who was the one who picked that up? I have a suspicion that we've got some of our guys who tend to pick it up more than others. And let's see who our winner was. Do we have a new winner? I believe we do. a brand new winner. Piyush Pawar, yes, it is a new winner. Piyush Pawar, 91. Well done. Wonder if 91 is your year of birth or your age. I'm just being cheeky there. Probably more likely the latter if you remember the fact that cricket was played without a middle stump at one point in time.
We actually played a test match against Pakistan where Pat Simcox was batting, and the ball went between middle and off stump, straight through, and didn't knock anything off. Obviously, they'd set it up a little bit wrong, so it must have been a gap like that. Straight through. On the replay, we couldn't believe our eyes that the ball had gone through.
Pat Simcox.
So even with,
I'd love to hear the story from Simo.
Anyway.
Brilliant. But one more reminder, Cricbuzz Plus, if you like a little bit extra, we've Match Party is on every single playoff day. We've had the qualifier, we've had the eliminator, another qualifier, final to come, Match Party. These guys just love it. They can party all week long. And we would like to, if you're not up at this time, still working. But we'll try and sneak a party or two in. For now, for all of you, thank you for joining us. Ajay, thank you as always. Shaun Pollock, gracias. And for everyone out there, we'll be back for the qualifier number 2 from Ahmedabad. Until then, from all of us at Cricbuzz Live, it's once again good morning.